You know, they missed a trick by not having a character named MJ in there, if you get my drift. That way you can make sure he really takes it personally. In the face, that is. Okay, one last dive into Atari 50 before that thing's usefulness expires. It's Basketbrawl, released in 1990 for Atari 7800 Pro System courtesy of the Atari Corporation. It's a simple little game where you pick a character out of 6 and play a quick game of Basketbrawl, which is like basketball, except physical violence is not only allowed, it's encouraged. Right, so on offense, one button passes to the other player while the other shoots. On defense, one button jumps to block shots and the other punches people in the face. Note that you'll actually need a face to punch, but fortunately there's plenty to go around. But yeah, it's a pretty straightforward deal. You set up your game to last 1, 3, or 5 minutes, as in one game, not a quarter or period, but one whole game. You can literally have the option for a 1-minute game of Basketbrawl, which goes way too quickly, so don't do that, yeah? You'll miss all the fun stuff otherwise. Anyway, 1 or 2 players, go 1-on-1 or 2-on-2. Computer's always controlling your partner in either 1 or 2 player games. Pick one of 3 skill settings and you pick one of 6 characters, each with their own varying stats and such, and then you brawl. In a 2-player game pitting both players against each other, it's one and done. The 1-player game, however, has you playing through several games to win a championship of some sort at the end of it all, so naturally if you win a game against one team, you'll play another game against a tougher team of random opponents. Also worth noting are numbers next to each character's head. This represents stamina and naturally goes down as the player takes hits. Once a player runs out of stamina, they are out for the rest of the game. This means you could focus on knocking out both players of an opposing team, and once they're both down, the game is pretty much in the bag and you're left scoring hoops and dodging whatever knives the ref throws at you, but really it's just score whatever you want and you win and you move on to the next team. On the surface, Basketbrawl seems like a fun take on the old basketball game that tosses in some good old fisticuffs to mix things up a bit. In truth, the basketball thing does seem like a front for the beat-em-up aspect of the game. There are no rules being maintained other than shoot ball and hoop, score 2 points, and outside of that, you also have a separate score counter for your own performance throughout the tournament. But that's okay because we already have a proper basketball game of sorts on 7800. Let Basketbrawl do its own thing and have a bit of fun with the concept. Controls are pretty simple to learn and are fairly responsive. The various characters play similarly, but varying stats make them different enough to warrant trying out. Of course, like most sports games on Atari 7800, Basketbrawl eventually wears out its welcome with its limited options and somewhat bare-bones gameplay, although there's probably more mileage to be gained out of this compared to stuff like 1-on-1 or Real Sports Baseball. Certainly a far better game than Hat Trick, but yes, there's also arch rivals on NES, but that's actual basketball with some fisticuffs, whereas this is fisticuffs with some basketball, and I actually like this better, so, I don't know. Or something. Basketbrawl boasts some fairly decent visuals, with some fairly sized and detailed caricatures that move around the screen, as well as 3 different courts for you to play in. A bit rough in some edges, but I'd still call it a decent looking game. On the other hand, sound output is rather lackluster. Yeah, there's an opening title song that's almost catchy in its primitiveness, but otherwise you're left with these rather harsh, ugly sounding sound effects during gameplay. And yes, Atari 7800's weak point has always been its 2600 derived sound output, but some games can make the most out of what little it had to work with, and others, like Basketbrawl, don't seem to bother at all, so turn the volume down, play something else in the background, and your ears will thank you. Overall, Basketbrawl is the sort of basketball game that I think Arch Rivals wishes it was. A game of basketball on the surface, but forget all of that shit and just beat the crap out of your opponents instead. It's a fun game that I wish more was done to give it that extra bit of replay value, but for what it is, it's surprisingly charming, and if I'm being honest, I'd much rather play more of this kind of basketball video game than those attempting the real deal. Well worth checking out this one. Oh my god, they killed Duke Nukem. Not like he's doing anything else these days, so what does it really matter?